concern I want to talk to you about right now is, like I said, Jim Rickers is a friend of mine, and I've been studying this Fedcoin concept. And I don't know if one of the reasons gold is so important is simply because gold and silver are money. You know, they've been there. I would call it God's money, because I've been all over the world looking for gold and silver. And in 71, when Nixon took the dollar off the gold standard, what else happened is our schools took the subject of gold out of study. I think it's so interesting, EB. And then you work for a friend of mine. His name is Doug Casey. He and I were just in Cancun together about 3 weeks ago. And we're the old guys been, singing from the hymnal of gold for all these years. And then now we have crypto or Fedcoin. So what is your prognosis on this whole industry going from what I call God's money to people's money or crypto money, which was Bitcoin, and then now the Fed is realizing that Bitcoin was kicking their butt, and they better get into Fedcoin or what do you see happening?
Well, I mean, it's a financial prison. Chapter 17 of my book, I have a chapter on Fedcoin. It's a term that I first came up with in 2016 when people didn't even know what Bitcoin was, and we were talking about Fedcoin. Fedcoin has been in the works for a long time. If you think about it, the United States uses the dollar as a weapon around the world. Okay, you hear this all the time. Russia is bad. We're going to use sanctions against people there. Iran is bad. We're going to use sanctions. What are these sanctions? These sanctions will block you out of using any sort of modern day currency in the financial system. And of course, Bitcoin has been a workaround for some people. Remember, 20 years ago, we talked about an e-dollar and everybody said, this is terrible. We can't do this. But now everyone's comfortable with the digital wallet. I mean, even older generations are comfortable with the idea of having digital money.
I don't even use cash anymore because I'd rather have a credit card. So what's the difference between a credit card and Fedcoin?
So the thing that Fedcoin will do is it will give centralized control. That's what people need to see, is that there's centralized control. So every single Fedcoin, just like every Bitcoin, has a history attached to it. I thought it was totally anonymous, like it was a Swiss bank account in my pocket, but it's not. Everything is tracked. So you can trace these Bitcoin transactions back to the original user.
When the Fedcoin comes out, and I've heard this number of times, EB, we don't need banks anymore. So just as truck drivers will be unemployed, bankers would be unemployed if it goes to total central planning, which is communism, and the central planners control everything.
And EB, on the Fedcoin, so you're saying it's already happening. It's already in the works. They've been planning this for a long time. What's the impact on gold and silver if this Fedcoin comes out? Is it more valuable, less valuable?
Well, I think the Chinese know the answer to that as we were talking. I mean, once you figure this out, it's too late.
Rickards and I suspect when it goes to the Fedcoin, those big banks are gone. Because the big banks are what they call the transmission system, like the transmission of a car. But they take the transmission out because it's a Tesla now. Now, what's the possibility of that in the not too distant future?
Well, it's a great question, because I think what people don't realize is they look and they try to make these predictions and say, well, what's going to happen to ABC company? But wait a minute, what's going to happen to you? I mean, the guys at Goldman are going to be fine because the business changes and it's no longer business. See, as you have centralized control, business changes. So this becomes a command economy. So it matters how close you are to the power. Now, what about the average person? What about the guy that's working, the woman that's working, that's saving, that's trying to invest, and they're using all the things they learned about in the 80s to make decisions today? That's the person that we're trying to talk to, right? I mean, that's the one that needs help.
I'm just asking us, what's the possibility of the banks disappearing, disintermediated?
I think the banks will look a lot different. You still need an interface between the consumer and a purchase. There's still going to be a payment processing function that goes on, or a credit extension. Because people love spending more than they earn, right?
It's more of a utility, utilitarian.
That's right. So you have less banks, Robert. So imagine you have, a dozen banks. Now, right now, there's about 7,000 banks in the country. It's way too many. So as this transition continues, you have far less banks.
If that is possible, if everything is going centralized with a Fedcoin, which is communism, that's central planning, will that make things that are not trackable more valuable? Is that possible?
Absolutely. Absolutely.